Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, this week we're going to start off with some market information from some of the manufacturers and products we featured previously on the channel. One of them is from George Lentz at Tubes USA, the importer of ISO Tango iron. He informed me a few weeks ago that at the end of November, I think November 20th, ISO is doing a 20% price increase across the board to all the distributors across the world. So if you're interested in using some ISO Tango iron, whether it's interstage or choke or output transformers like I use in some of my projects, go buy them now. I just bought 10, the 12 series that I use in my EL34 amps. Just bought a pair of these FC60-5s to put in the Wilsonton R8, which is an upcoming video, and getting all that done before the price increase. So just a heads up on that. If you were planning on buying some of this iron to use in a project or wanted to buy some for future projects, get it now. And I'll put the link to Tubes USA below. The other thing is got a little update from PS Vane. They initially had made some KT150 tubes, and there was the same issue that the Tungsten 120 modern production tubes have. They work perfect in a push-pull amp when you buy some about 60 milliamps, which is where you would buy some in a push-pull amp. Put them in a single-ended amp where they got to be biased up to 100, 110, 120 milliamps. They did the same thing those Tungsten 120s were doing. They would try to red plate. And I think it's got the same thermal design issue with the getter that we ran into with the KT120. When I told Melody the problem I ran into, we went back and forth with their engineers, and I don't think, I know Tungsten doesn't understand that there's a problem with these tubes when you try to run them in a single-ended amp, biased as hot as they need to be in a single-ended amp, that the thermal design with that getter across from the plate is going to make them overheat. And soon as she and her engineers were aware of what was going on, they pulled them off the market. And they went back to the drawing board, and I haven't heard anything back. She said they're still trying to work out the production details on, I think somehow moving those getters does create problems when they try to flash the getter and causing issues with the tube shorting out or something. I'm not a tube designer. I don't know. I'm just a tube consumer, and I know when they're not working right and when there's a problem. So kudos to them for, once they found out there was a problem, from pulling them off the shelves and going back to the design. The other thing they're working on is a 5AR4, and similarly, although they never got into production, they're having issues with the filaments and the overheating when you start really running the max current through them that a 5AR4 is supposed to be able to deal with. And again, give them kudos or applause for not putting something out into production that doesn't meet specifications like some of these other tube manufacturers have been doing. We've seen problems with a lot of new production 5AR4 tubes across the board, and I'm confident that once PS Vane does, announce that this is out in production or it's, in stock, that it's going to be a real 5AR4 that's going to equal the specs of those new old stock ones that were some of the most rugged rectifier tubes that were ever made. And so just have to wait on that until, they get that problem sorted out. So those are the two main things that I've heard this week that I wanted to share with you guys. And I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about was, what is the MO of this channel? And I thought that was a very interesting question that somebody put in the comments. I was like, the jury's still out on what the MO is on your channel. Well, just using the term MO is like what they use with criminals. So you really think I'm doing something criminal or unethical or illegal on my YouTube channel? That just seemed bizarro world. And then in response to my video that I dropped a few days ago, that, yay, it got a lot of likes and views on it. I was hoping it would. Of my top 5 amps under $1,500, somebody was like, oh, you're just trying to, game the algorithm and get a bunch of clicks on your channel. And I think to myself, of course I am. I mean, why else would I make videos if I didn't hope people watched them? And the best way to get people to watch your videos is come up with a catchy title or an interesting looking thumbnail. And there was nothing nefarious or clickbait about that video I did. Those are my top 5 amplifiers for under $1,500. And yeah, there's a bunch of other amplifiers out there under $1,500. Should I be including them in my top 5 when I've never heard or listened to them, like some of these reviewers do? Or they start reviewing stuff that they've never even seen? I mean, that to me is clickbait. And the stuff that I've talked about is stuff that I've personally worked on, modified, measured, listened to, and know about. And there were amplifiers in that price point range that I have looked at, listened to, that I did not include because they are not in my top 5. There's probably a dozen tube amplifiers that fit that scenario. And should I have to apologize that I haven't personally seen, listened to, and reviewed the 5,000 different tube amplifiers that are probably out there that are under $1,500? That's not how this works. And again, of course I'm trying to get people to watch my channel. I mean, that's the whole purpose of being on YouTube. And if you want to go watch a channel that nobody watches, I mean, I get links sent to me for videos on YouTube that have, channels that have 35 people subscribed to it. And then you go watch the channel and you can understand why. And I hope there's more to my channel than clickbait and trying to game the system, or I've got some nefarious MO. And just so you folks are aware, another accusation I had was, oh, you talk about budget hi-fi and all you're buying for yourself is all this high-end audio. You just bought that new expensive tape deck. It's like, it was an $800 used tape deck. You guys think that's high-end audio? High-end audio is like $25,000 bookshelf speakers or $40,000 speaker cables. $800 is not high-end audio. And neither is my $1,000 turntable. Even if I bought the $3,500 version of that Technics turntable, that's not high-end audio. Now, if I had a $12,000 turntable with a $6,000 phono cartridge in it, then you can start saying, oh, you're reviewing high-end audio stuff, or you're buying high-end audio stuff yourself. And just for the record, so you guys are aware, at the level I am in YouTube, with the number of views I get on my videos, even on a month like this month where I'm pumping out a bunch of videos, I'm probably going to maybe get $400 from YouTube. And most months it's more like $300. I'm not getting rich off this. And the hours that I put into this, like this specific video, I already recorded this video once, and somehow the microphone cable wasn't plugged into the camera right, and it was recording the audio from the camera instead of this microphone, and I knew it wasn't going to be even acceptable quality, and so I threw that video in the trash can, and now I'm here recording another one. And I'm probably going to have 3 hours of my time into recording this video, downloading it on my computer, and then uploading it to Elements, going through editing the audio, then editing the video, then uploading it to YouTube, and doing all the checks and copyright stuff. And yeah, and I'm probably going to get 2,000 clicks, which is probably $10. So I'm making like $3 an hour making this video. So you think I'm getting rich off this? That is not what's going on here. But yes, I want the channel to grow. And yeah, I hope I get more clicks and views on my videos. That's why people do YouTube. And it'd be an idiot if I was doing this not hoping for the channel to grow. So I hope that puts that mess to bed. And you guys that are jealous or whatever your deal is, accusing me of ripping people off or having some kind of MO, you go do this for a while and show us how it's done, and then like not monetize your channel or do anything and be some altruistic, charity YouTube channel. So there's my little rant for today on that deal. And there is a story I wanted to share with you that I really appreciate the guy emailing me with his story. I was originally going to share his blog post on his site, and he was talking about the MusicShare X7 and his experience. But he asked me not to share it, so I'm going to honor that. But he did say it was okay to tell his story. So he bought a MusicShare X7 off Amazon. Paid the $14.99 price for it. First thing that happened was the bias adjusters were acting kind of screwy, and the bias just was moving around. It wasn't real stable, and ran it for a while, and it seemed more stable. So we got the bias set on it, which you shouldn't have to do on a brand new out of the box push-pull amp. The bias should be set. Before long, one of the tubes red plated, one of the original tubes. And he was like, ugh, turn it off real quick. And he thought he had caught it before it even damaged the tube. It didn't go in a meltdown or anything. So he let the amp cool off. Sure enough, that bias wasn't right on that tube. So we got that bias set right on that tube. Started playing the amp again. And this was over a few days. And then a different tube red plated. Same thing. The bias had drifted off. And then all the biases were acting weird. And so he thought maybe it's the tubes. At this point, he hadn't contacted MusicShare, Amazon, or anybody. He was just like, maybe it's the tubes. Let me buy a new set of tubes. So he ordered a set of new, some kind of, PS Vane, some of their higher end stuff, set of KT88 tubes, put it in the amp, and bias was still acting a little quirky. And he waited a couple of weeks on the tubes. That's kind of key to the story. So a couple of weeks later, he gets these tubes in, puts them in. It seems okay at first, but then less than a week later, no, the tube red plates. And he's just like, this can't be right. Here's the key part of the story. By the time he figured out there was something seriously wrong with the amp, the 30-day window at Amazon had expired. So he couldn't return at Amazon. The windows no longer return at Amazon. So he contacts the seller on Amazon, which is not MusicShare, it's a distributor. This guy's buying these amps from China, direct from MusicShare, buying a crate of them or whatever, several pallets of them, and then he puts them on Amazon, marks them up, and resells them here. And he gives them a 1-year warranty. So he contacts the seller. They're like, sure, we'll take a look at it. You can send it to our repair center up in Washington State, and you pay the shipping. So this guy's just your normal Joe Blow person, doesn't have some kind of fancy discounted shipping account like a business owner like me. I've got an account through ShipStation and I get a discount on my shipping. He doesn't have that. And so it cost him $145 to ship this amp back to the repair center. Repair center looks at it, says, bias pods, or the bias boards are bad. We're going to put some new bias pods, bias board assemblies in it. So they do that repair work. They send the amp back to him. Less than a week goes by, another tube red plates. Bias is still acting crazy. And what I told him, I think what was really going on is there's something wrong with the negative bias supply. And so, yeah, they didn't know what, the repair shop probably could just change out some parts. They didn't know what was going on. So he contacts MusicShare again. They tell him to send it back. And I'm not sure the details of whether he had to pay for the shipping the second time. Maybe he had to. I don't know. They send him not a new amp, but they send him a scratch and dent special that somebody else had used and returned and maybe had a problem and got repaired. So he gets a used amp, and I guess their rationalization is, well, it's a used amp sent back for repairs, so we'll send you another used amp that we know works. Well, this one worked, but it was all scratched up, had some dents in it. He showed me the pictures of it. It was pretty ugly, but it worked. Didn't have the bias problems, but he was still like, I bought a brand new amp. I shouldn't be having to live with something that looks like this. So he contacts MusicShare again. Again, he has to ship this thing back somewhere, and then they send him another one. This one looks good. It works good, but the original two had XLR inputs. This one doesn't. It's only got RCAs. One of the reasons he bought it was so he could use the XLR inputs. So he got an older version that doesn't have the XLR inputs. And at this point, he was just like, you know what? I'm going to live with this. I wanted to use my XLR balanced cables, but I'll just live with this. At least this one isn't melting tubes down. So what's the moral of the story? If you buy through Amazon, if something doesn't work perfect and something's acting weird, if it makes weird noises or something seems scratchy sounding or the bias pots are, the bias readings are jumpy, and then it's like, oh, it seems okay now. If it acted weird at all, immediately return it. You get a free return. You get stuff on Amazon. You just say, hey, it's defective. I want another one. And they have to return it. And they have to give you a new one. They can't send you some old used one if you return it back to Amazon. And that's another reason not to try to, save some money buying it direct from China, from, AliExpress or whoever you want to try to buy it through, where, hey, it's only $800 there, but it's $450 shipping, but that's still cheaper than Amazon. Wait till there's something wrong with it, and you have to pay $500 to return it. Then it becomes like, okay, it was an $800 amp. I got to pay $500 to return it. Is this thing even worth returning? And that's what they hope. And so, moral of the story is, buy it through Amazon and instantly return it, or return it within the 30-day window if there's anything wrong with it. Don't wait around, and don't let them try to convince you to try to wait around until that 30-day window is gone, because then you have no recourse. So I want to finish up this video with some trivia about Skunky Productions. And just so you understand, after some comments, some people asked some questions, kind of what's going on here on the production side of my videos. And one of the questions somebody had is, I kind of see you looking away from the camera, or you're reading a script, or what, do you script these? How do you, there's no script. When I started to make this video, I just sat down and started talking to the camera. I had a couple of ideas, I wanted to talk about these, and maybe talk about these little ISO pucks. We'll talk about that at the very end. But yeah, there's no script, and I don't know if it's kind of stream of consciousness, but I just kind of talk to the camera, talk to you guys. And that was another thing somebody commented, was like, it kind of bugs me, you don't look at the camera. And it's like, yeah, I know, I don't just stare at the camera like some of the YouTubers do. And part of that comes from my training on doing television interviews, which I do for local television with part of my city council job. I've been interviewed probably 20 times. And every time I'm instructed, don't look at the camera, look at the person that's talking to you. And it's a hard habit to get out of. And if you stare at the camera with those kind of interviews, it looks weird. And then people say, well, it looks weird when you're not staring at the camera doing these kind of videos. And so, you know what, guys, I'm not a professional. And, I'm trying to do as good a content as I can, but some of this stuff is just habit. I'm a human being. I'm not, like right now, I'm sitting here looking at the table. I just, if you ever met me in person, for whatever reason, I don't stare at people's eyes. I mean, I feel sometimes it creeps me out when people are just staring at me, I don't know. That's just my personality, and that's just kind of the way I am. And so that's probably not going to change. And so if that really bugs you, there's several professionally trained actors that are doing audio channels that have, their $1 million home with their fancy background and all that kind of stuff, that you can go watch those channels. And yeah, it's really professionally done stuff. They've got a script, and they've probably run through exactly what they're going to say before they record the video, get the camera rolling, and everything's perfect. And so if that's what you're looking for, sorry, this probably isn't the channel you should be watching. And it kind of goes against what I was saying earlier. Yeah, I want people to sub and watch my channel, but I can't please everybody, and I'm just being me. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people are subscribed and like the channel, is this is just me being me, and it's not scripted, and it's not all polished and everything. And so just a little bit about me and how this channel's been made. So anyway, I do hope you're enjoying this content. If you are, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you guys, as well as you other folks that help me out when I'm having problems and send me stuff. And I'm working on that 6C33C, and this Panhead Chopper, is his handle guy, is sending me some Lundell chokes to try on the plate chokes for that. And he's like, yeah, here, I'll send you a couple. Just, if they do work out, we'll work out something. And that kind of stuff just makes this all worthwhile. Sometimes it is frustrating, but the joy I get from dealing with really fun people, like Andrew Sparks at Sparkos, he's really helped me out. And George at Tubes USA, we have a lot of good conversations. And just the people I've met have really made this fun. And that's what this, to me, is all about. As much about audio gear as about the people in the hobby and just having a good time. So let's lighten up and have fun. And for any of you guys that, either want to be hostile or want to be too critical, or come onto my channel in the comments trying to promote your own channel, or, promote something, well, I'm smarter than you, yeah, that's a block filter. I just don't have time for that. So anyway, thanks again. We'll see you next week for the Monday Monologue.